As a dedicated American shooter who's been in the game long enough to see trends rise and fall, I can tell you what's happening right now with firearm accessories isn't just policy, it's a calculated squeeze. The Department of Justice has been laying the groundwork to drag more accessories under the net of federal gun control. Meanwhile, several states have already made moves to outlaw things like standard capacity magazines and key parts gun owners rely on. The spotlight used to be on ammo folks were scooping up all the 9mm and .22 long rifle they could find, but now, the crosshairs are shifting. Accessories, parts, and build tools are being targeted with the same intensity. And when these get outlawed, it won't just be a temporary inconvenience, it could be a permanent loss. So before these restrictions tighten like a vice, here's a deep dive into 9 essential accessories every serious gun owner ought to lock down now while they still can. First up, let's talk about lowers and the so-called ghost gun debate. An unfinished lower, what we commonly call an 80% lower, isn't a firearm. It's a hunk of metal or polymer. You still have to drill, mill, and finish it yourself. And that takes skill, time, and a whole lot of patience. Anti-gunners like to act like these things are plug-and-play tools for criminals. But anyone who's ever completed one knows better. The media loves to push the idea that ghost guns are untraceable, and that makes them dangerous. But that narrative falls apart fast when you look at real-world law enforcement work. Investigators build cases using evidence like fingerprints, ballistic signatures from shell casings, DNA, and motive, not just by tracing serial numbers. Even serialized guns don't always solve crimes. Stolen guns get passed around all the time. The truth is, untraceable is just a scare word meant to justify more control. The real issue isn't hobbyists making legal guns at home, it's criminals ignoring the law entirely. States like California, New Jersey, and New York didn't waste any time turning that fear into law. They've banned ghost guns outright or buried them under layers of mandatory serialization and paperwork. And at the federal level, the ATF's recent shift in defining what counts as a firearm has made life a lot tougher for builders. Now they're cracking down not just on lowers, but also on parts kits and the tools you use to finish them. The message is clear. They want to make it as frustrating and risky as possible to build your own firearm. But if you're like me and enjoy the freedom and satisfaction of a self-built rifle or pistol, the window to stock up on lowers is closing fast. They're inexpensive, easy to store, and they're a cornerstone of what the Second Amendment protects your right to keep and bear arms, not just buy them off the shelf. Now let's shift gears to something that's reshaping the whole game, three-dimensional printing. It's no longer just for making toys or phone holders. With the right printer, materials, and a bit of technical know-how, you can fabricate custom firearm parts or entire frames that fit your exact needs. This is innovation at its best. But for the folks who want to control the narrative, it's terrifying. They argue that three-dimensional printed guns bypass regulations, but let's get real. Building guns at home has always been legal under federal law. Three-dimensional printing just makes it more efficient for the law-abiding gun owner. That's why we're seeing hostile laws in states like New York and New Jersey, and why places like Washington, D.C. have followed suit. It's not about public safety, it's about control. The ability to design and build your own gear is part of firearm culture, American ingenuity, and personal freedom, and those values are now being painted as threats. Coming from someone who spent years handling everything from classic bolt actions to tricked-out modern builds, I've seen firsthand how certain accessories completely redefine what a firearm can do. Pistol braces are one of those game changers. Originally created to help disabled veterans handle AR-style pistols more safely, these braces give you the kind of control and stability that turns a fire-breathing compact blaster into a genuinely manageable tool, whether you're punching paper at the range or keeping your home safe. But here's the problem. Because braces make AR pistols more shootable, they've been put under the microscope by lawmakers and the ATF. The claim is that they blur the legal distinction between pistols and short-barreled rifles. That's why the feds are trying to shove brace-equipped pistols into the same legal category as SBRs, meaning mandatory registration, full background checks, and a $200 tax stamp. If that push succeeds, it leaves millions of lawful owners in a legal gray zone. States like California and New York are already treating pistol braces like contraband. And the federal government is poised to follow suit. If you're still sitting on the fence about this, don't wait too long. Owning one could soon come with a whole heap of bureaucratic baggage. Then there's the never-ending drama around bump stocks. These devices, which harness recoil to simulate a faster rate of fire, became a household name for all the wrong reasons. After the 2018 ban, the Supreme Court eventually ruled the federal prohibition overreached, but that hasn't stopped anti-gun states like Massachusetts, California, and New York from enforcing their own bans anyway. Even now, the current administration has hinted at reviving the federal ban, supposedly for public safety. But let's be honest, there's almost no evidence that outlawing bump stocks makes anyone safer. What this really boils down to is precedent. If a president can wipe out one accessory with the stroke of a pen, then what's next? The muzzle brake on your long-range rifle? The red dot on your truck gun? This isn't just about bump stocks, it's about how far the government thinks it can go without Congress getting involved. Now let's get into frames and receivers, the literal core of any firearm. These parts are the heart of every custom build and essential for keeping older guns alive and functioning. But now they've landed squarely in the crosshairs. The ATF's latest reinterpretation of federal law basically says if a frame or receiver is even partially finished, it's now a firearm in the eyes of Uncle Sam. That means it needs a serial number and a background check to buy, killing off the market for easy-to-get parts kits overnight. California, New Jersey, and New York wasted no time jumping ahead with their own bans on non-serialized components. And now Washington is borrowing straight from their playbook. But let's be clear, these aren't just random hunks of metal, they represent autonomy. The ability to build, repair, or upgrade your own gun without relying on a manufacturer is a core part of American gun culture. Restricting that doesn't make the streets safer, it just puts more power in the hands of the state. Let's talk about short barrels. Whether you're clearing a hallway, working in tight quarters, or setting up a compact rifle caliber platform for truck duty, nothing beats a shorter barrel. Anything under 16 inches lets you retain the punch of a rifle round without dragging around a full-length carbine. But of course, lawmakers and regulators see that compact footprint as a threat. Short barrels have been regulated for decades under the National Firearms Act. You've got to file paperwork, wait for approval, submit fingerprints, and fork over $200 just to legally own one as a short-barreled rifle. That's already a huge hoop to jump through. But that hasn't stopped places like Illinois, California, and New York from going even further and banning them altogether. Those bans are starting to look like trial runs for future federal restrictions. If you've ever considered building a short barrel setup, whether it's for defense, range use, or just to enjoy a well-balanced rifle, you'd better act now before that window slams shut. Let's get one thing straight: suppressors, or silencers as the movies love to call them, do not make a gun whisper quiet. Even with subsonic ammunition in something like a .300 Blackout, it still roars like a construction site jackhammer. What a suppressor actually does is cut the noise down to a safer level, helping preserve hearing and reducing the sharp report that bothers neighbors or indoor range users. They're not just for tacti-cool builds or military units either. Hunters, sport shooters, and law enforcement use suppressors to shoot more safely and effectively. But despite their clear benefits, the anti-gun crowd insists on painting them as tools for assassins, completely ignoring how loud even a suppressed shot still is. States like California, New York, and Illinois have already banned them outright, while places like Massachusetts make legal ownership nearly impossible. On the federal side, they've been under the National Firearms Act for decades, requiring a $200 tax stamp and months-long approval wait. Now, there's talk in Washington about jacking that tax up to $300 and adding more hoops to jump through. That's not about public safety, it's about keeping law-abiding gun owners from owning basic safety equipment. Next up are forced reset triggers and binary trigger systems, two of the most exciting innovations in trigger technology. Forced reset triggers instantly reset after each shot, allowing faster follow-ups, while binary triggers fire one shot when you pull and another when you release. Neither of these systems turns a firearm into a machine gun, but they do let shooters run their platforms at a much faster pace. For competitive shooters, hobbyists, and trainers, these tools can dramatically improve performance. But as usual, speed equals scrutiny. The ATF has already started classifying some FRTs as machine guns, even though their function clearly remains semi-automatic. Binary triggers haven't been hit yet, but it's only a matter of time. California, New York, and New Jersey have already banned anything that enhances rate of fire, and those laws are being used as blueprints for national bans. These triggers represent ingenuity and user-level customization qualities the gun control lobby would rather see erased. And finally, let's talk about the elephant in the room: high-capacity magazines and drum mags. Whether you're running drills, competing, or prepping for emergencies, having 30, 50, or even 100 rounds on tap makes a real difference. It means more time focused on your sight picture and less time reloading. But anti-gun politicians are absolutely obsessed with banning these. They claim that limiting capacity to 10 rounds will prevent mass shootings, conveniently ignoring the fact that criminals don't follow magazine laws. Despite this, most gun-restrictive states have already outlawed magazines holding over 10 rounds, and their local bans are quietly becoming prototypes for federal legislation. If a nationwide ban gets traction, standard capacity mags might suddenly become contraband overnight, turning millions of otherwise legal owners into criminals by default. In short, all 9 of these firearm accessories, from braces to mags, are hanging in the balance. With increasing legislative pressure from both state and federal levels, the time to speak up is now. Stay vigilant. Reject the fear-driven messaging and back the groups who are pushing back where it counts.